Hi, I'm Olivia, and this is my story with anxiety and depression. My parents got divorced when I was very young. I was 4 years old, and my dad struggled a lot with depression. And it got to a point where my mom decided that we shouldn't be around him anymore, and she picked us up, and me and my sister, and she took us to Chicago. Growing up, I was very sensitive to loud noises, and I would always cover my ears when there was a police car blocks and blocks away. And I was always a very sensitive kid. My sister had a lot of issues and she went into multiple treatment centers, and I felt very alone. I felt like I didn't really have anyone to depend on. I had a few friends that I held very near and dear, and they were they kind of became my life. I surrounded my life around them, because I wasn't very close with the rest of my family. I wasn't close at all with the rest of my family. And before my freshman year in high school, my mom picked me up and moved me to LA. When I got to California, I was depressed and I hated everything and everyone. And I didn't want to see anyone or talk to anyone. And I sat in the back of the class and nobody knew my name at school. And it wasn't only nobody knew my name, it was also that I couldn't talk to people. I, growing up, I didn't really put myself out there because nobody forced me to put myself out there. Nobody was like, Olivia, go talk to them or go make friends with them. I was very introverted, and my mom didn't want to push me too much when I was younger. And so I developed this social anxiety where I could not talk to people and I could not be in big groups of people. And when people would come over to my house for my mom, I would stay in my room the entire time. My mom would have house parties and Christmas parties and whatever, and I would not go downstairs because I didn't like people talking to me and I didn't like people looking at me, and I had issues with self-confidence, and I thought I was ugly and I thought I was fat or I thought I was whatever, and I didn't want anyone to see me. The anxiety felt like I was stuck. And what I mean by that is that I felt very confined, and I felt like I couldn't do things that other people can do, and I felt like I was different, which also mixed in with the depression. And I felt like everyone else was normal and I wasn't. And I kind of had this why me sense of why is everyone else normal and why am I not? And I would actually talk to my mom about that. I'd be like, well, why am I like this? Why do I have the bad genes? Why does my family have mental illness? Why does everyone else seem so perfect and we're not? And I would say that all the time. But it was really difficult because I struggle because depression and anxiety come hand in hand, which are both two very difficult mental illnesses, but putting them together is practically crippling, and it was super hard to deal with. Just like everyone else that has both, it's extremely difficult and it's hard to manage and whatever. But I gradually decided to get help. And when I asked my mom for a therapist, and I eventually got one, I did not open up to her at all. But when I ended up going and hurting myself pretty badly one night, I went into a treatment center, an IOP, and I didn't take it very seriously at first. I, I liked the kids, but I really struggled with talking to them at first, understandably. Usually people think that I'm just a mean person when they first meet me. They think that I just don't like them, is what people usually think. But in reality, I'm scared to talk to them, and I don't want them to think that I'm mean, which is what they think anyway. So I usually just stay quiet. But when I got to this treatment center, I gradually kind of started to get better. And it took me a while to actually put in the work. I wanted to get better, but another part of me didn't. Another part of me, the depressed part of me, just wanted to stay sad for so long. I I just didn't I was so used to being sad that I wasn't ready to be happy. And about 3 months into treatment at an IOP, I relapsed on drugs because I was doing drugs at the time. And I kind of made a decision that this is just not what I wanted. I made a fool of myself and I did things that I definitely shouldn't have done. And I was like, I don't want this life anymore. I want to be better for me and my family and the people around me. I really just changed from then on. I not completely, not my personality, but I changed my point of view and I decided that I was going to be better and I decided that I was going to try and I decided I didn't want to be held captive by anxiety and depression anymore. And I wanted to change and I wanted to grow and I want to be better for me and my future, which is not something that I used to think about. I used to think that, oh, nope, never going to be old, not going to live past 16, I'm not going to be that. I never considered college to be an option for myself. I never considered like life after high school, even. And I came to a point where I just wanted all of that suddenly again. Being at that treatment center brought me back to myself when I was like 9, which I had lost for so long. And I was happy again and I was smiling and I had a sense of family and community there because everyone was like me and everyone had the same issues as me and we all bonded that, you know, we were kind of messed up in a quirky way and we got along so well and we became a family and it was what I missed. And I started going to therapy with my parents and the conversation started that it wasn't all my fault and some of it was on them and we just had to grow together to change the dynamic. And before it was this feeling of like I'm so messed up and me and it's I. And finally someone came into the conversation and was like, it's not just you, it's everyone and everyone needs to change. And I when I started to get better, I eventually graduated and left the program and I went back to my old therapist and I told her everything that I didn't tell her before. And I ended up going into Narcotics Anonymous, and I am now sober for 2.5 years. I obviously have those days still where you feel sad and you just don't want to do anything, but it's no longer this depressed, and sometimes that can come back and sometimes that can, you know, affect you still, but that's the reason why you go and get help and you get these coping skills and you get medication and you do the things that you need to do to get yourself to be better. I finally wanted to go out and experience things, and you know, I really struggled to go outside before because I didn't my mom is a very active person. She likes to go on walks and I didn't like doing that. I didn't even like going outside. I didn't like doing any of those things. And now I go on walks every day. I love just walking around with my dogs and I love going to the park and I love, you know, experiencing new things. And I've really grown as a person in the past 2 years since I graduated that treatment center and now that I work at a treatment center, and I have a completely new perspective on life. I want to grow old and have grandchildren, and I want to own like 100 dogs, and I want to be the happiest person alive and go to Bora Bora and experience things. I recommend going and asking for help because it made my life do a complete 180. I never thought that I would be in the place that I am today. My life brings me so much joy today, and I never thought that I would be that person. I never thought that I could have all the things that I have. If you are struggling with depression or anxiety right now, I strongly recommend to go out and seek treatment. I think that whether it's therapy or treatment centers or talking to school counselors, I think that talking to anyone about your issues is always especially helpful. It's always nice to let out how you feel, and having people there to just listen to you was a game changer for me. I spent a long time holding in all of my feelings, and it really just hurt me and my soul. And I think that when I finally let it all out, it was just like weight off my back. And I remember the feeling. It was just like, oh my God, what just happened? And it was very nice. Um, but I think that a lot of people keep in their feelings because whether they don't want to burden anyone, or they don't feel comfortable, or there are a bunch of different issues or points of view. But I think that no matter what, everyone could use therapy. I think that everyone could use someone to talk to. And I think that there's a horrible stigma behind therapy, that it's for crazy people or whatever. And you don't even have to have a mental illness to talk to a therapist. I have a mental illness and I talk to a therapist, but I'm not crazy. And I think that regular everyday day-to-day people can go to therapy. And people that you see walking down the street, they probably go to therapy and they talk to someone, just because it's nice to let it out and talk to people. So that's my recommendation. If you are in crisis, please call the hotline below. And if you're interested, check out the resources page where there's a bunch of great information, or watch the other videos. Thank you so much for listening.